A cleaner, you said? Yes, sir. It's more than just cleaning. It's about creating a welcoming, functional environment for everyone who works there. Mrs. Domnic cut him off, her tone suddenly cold. You mean to say you sweep floors for a living and you think you can support our daughter? On that, Sarah looked between George and her.
I see you, my heart beats, a lady of all men's dreams.
This is George. Before I dive into this story, please consider subscribing to the channel for more real life tales. Now, let's get started. Walking into Sarah's family's home, George felt a mix of nerves and excitement. It was a big day after 3 years of dating. He was about to ask for Sarah's parents' blessing to propose. He thought they liked him well enough, but today it had to be official. The house was cozy, filled with the scent of fresh flowers and the soft hum of classical music. Sarah squeezed his hand, her smile reassuring as they awaited her parents in the living room. George, they are going to love you, Sarah whispered, the anticipation clear in her eyes. Her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Domnic, entered the room, their smiles wide. George, so good to see you again, Mr. Domnic said, offering a firm handshake that felt like a good sign. They sat and the conversation began, lightly touching on recent weather and town gossip. As they eased into more serious talk, George's heart pounded harder. This was it. So George, Sarah tells us you are quite settled in your job now, Mrs. Domnic said, a hint of curiosity in her voice. Yes, I am. I work as a cleaner at a local business complex. It's a role I really value for many reasons. George started, hoping to convey his genuine passion for his work. A shadow fell over Mr. Domnic's face, his smile fading slightly. A cleaner, you said? Yes, sir. It's more than just cleaning. It's about creating a welcoming, functional environment for everyone who works there. Mrs. Domnic cut him off, her tone suddenly cold. You mean to say you sweep floors for a living and you think you can support our daughter? On that, Sarah looked between George and her parents, her face falling on the atmosphere soared. Mom, George is really good at what he does. And her father stood, his chair scrapping back abruptly. Sarah, we've given you everything. You went to the best school and you are set for a comfortable life. Married a cleaner is not what we envisioned for you. George tried to keep his composure, feeling the sting of these words. I understand your concerns, but I love Sarah. We are happy together. Happy, living off scraps, Mrs. Domnic scoffed. If you marry him, Sarah, consider yourself cut off. We would support this. The room went silent, the air thick with tension. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she looked at George, then at her parents. The choice was clear. I can't do this, she murmured to herself. Then she left the room, leaving George with her parents' disapproving stares. Heartbroken, George got up. I guess this is goodbye then. Mr. Domnic's only response was a dismissive nod. Mrs. Domnic turned away effectively, ending the conversation, and with it, George's relationship as well. Walking out, the door closing behind felt final. George had lost Sarah, not to someone else, but to her own choice, comfort over love. The drive home was a blur. George thought loud in the silence of his car. This was the end, or so he thought. Little did they know, the man they dismissed had much more to his story. But for now, heartbreak was his only companion. Driving back into the grind of his company wasn't just a distraction. It was a mission as George, the CEO of a successful cleaning company, he was determined to reshape his narrative. The hurt from Sarah and her parents' rejection fueled a fire within him, not just to succeed, but to prove a point about the value of every profession. One late evening, at the office, while reviewing contracts and performances report, his assistant JC knocked and entered with a hesitant look. "What's up, JC? It's late. You should head home," she shuffled, holding her tablet like a shield. "Actually, George, there is something you might want to see here. It's an opportunity, well, more like an invitation to be interviewed on a popular TV business show. They want to spotlight entrepreneurs who are changing the norms." George picked up a plan, slowly forming. "Do they know about, my cleaning side?" That's just it. They think they are inviting the innovative CEO of a top cleaning company. They don't know the whole story. A grin spread across George's face. "Let's not tell them anything yet. Book it. This might be the reveal we need." Weeks later, George stood backstage at the TV studio. His heart pounded not from nerves, but from anticipation. The host, Dave, greeted him warmly. "Ready to make some waves, George?" "More than ready, Dave. Let's do this." The lights brightened, the camera rose, and there George was sharing his vision of leadership and the ethos behind treating every employee with dignity, regardless of their job title. Dave nodded, visibly impressed. "But there is more to your story. Isn't there something about how you started?" George, taking a deep breath, he leaned into the microphone. "Yes, Dave. I actually began my career as a cleaner in this very company, and I still take shifts on the floor. It keeps me connected to my team and the core of our business." The audience was silent for a moment, then erupted an applause. Dave's eye widened, a mixture of shock and respect, mirroring the audience reaction. "That's humility and pride in your work. No matter what it is, George, that's truly inspiring." The interview concluded with more discussions about value and integrity in business, resonating deeply with viewers at home. And in the studio, phones buzzed, social media lit up, and the story of the CEO cleaner was trending by the time George walked out of the studio. Days later, while sifting through emails and countless interview requests, a familiar name popped up. Sarah. She had seen the interview. She saw George on TV. She had no idea about any of this. "Can we talk?" George stared at the screen, her words igniting a mix of emotions. Before he could craft a reply, another email notification slid in, this time from her father, Mr. Domnic. He was more direct. "George, I must admit, as we were wrong, you've accomplished more than we ever anticipated. We've honored to discuss possible collaborations with your company." The irony wasn't lost. They hadn't cared when they thought he was just a cleaner. Their sudden change of heart was proof of their superficiality. Typing out a response, George chose his words carefully, knowing that this was more than just a reply. It was a declaration of his words, regardless of anyone's validation. "I appreciate your message. However, I believe our paths have diverged too significantly for any reconciliation. I wish you all the best." As George sent the email, a sense of peace settled over him. He had proven his point, not just to them, but to anyone who ever doubted the dignity of any honest work. His heart was still healing, but now it was also hopeful, looking forward to whatever come next. "Man, did you see this George on national TV? I saw it. But wait, he was a cleaner. That's the guy Sarah dumped because her parents didn't like his job." "Yeah, and it turns out he's actually the CEO of the whole company. Can you believe that?" The buzz was all over town, in cafes, offices, and on the streets. The story of the CEO cleaner not only went viral, but sparked a debate about societal values and the dignity of work. At a local store, a group gathered around a smartphone, rewatching the interview, their expression a mix of shock and admiration. He's making a huge point, It's not just about the job, it's about who you are and what you do with it. And to think his own girlfriend's family threw him under the bus because they thought he was just some low-level cleaner. Back at the office, George's team gathered, buzzing with excitement and pride. George, that was incredible. You really stood up for all of us. JC beamed, her eyes bright with pride. Thanks, JC. It wasn't just for me, it was for all of us. Everyone deserves respect, no matter their job. The phone rang non-stop. Media outlets clamoring for more interview, while emails flooding in with support, opportunities, and a few critical ones. George, this is Mike from the City News. Can we book you for a follow-up interview? Everyone's talking about your story. Sure, Mike. Let's set it up. It's important to keep this conversation going. As the week progressed, invitations to speak at conferences and schools came in. Everyone wanted to hear from the man who defied societal stereotypes and championed the cause of blue-collar workers. One afternoon, as George prepared for another interview, Sarah's brother Eric showed up at his office. He was hesitant, shifting from one foot to another. Hey George, I just wanted to say I'm sorry, man. Sarah is torn up about all this. I appreciate you coming here, Eric, but it's a lot to process. Your family's reaction was tough on me. I get it, and I'm not here to make excuses for them. I just hope maybe someday things could be different. Maybe, Eric, but it's going to take a lot of time, he nodded. Disappointment clear, but understanding the gravity of the situation. As Eric left, another call came in through. This time it was from a community organization asking George to lead a workshop on business ethics and personal integrity. George, we'd love for you to share your perspective on maintaining integrity and challenging environment. I'll be honored. It's about making a positive impact, and I'm all in. The days were long, filled with commitment and newfound responsibility to use his voice for change. George, it's Sarah. I've been trying to reach you. I just want to say I'm sorry. I saw the interview and I had no idea. I understand you are sorry, Sarah, but understanding who I really am after seeing me on TV doesn't change what happened. But George, I do love you. I was confused, scared of losing my family. Can't we try to work this out? Sarah, when I needed you most, you chose their comfort over our future. It's not just about the job I have, it's about respecting each other's choices. I know, and I regret it every day. Please, can we meet and talk? Sarah, right now, I need space. The phone clicked as the conversation ended, leaving a heavy silence. The regret in Sarah's voice was palpable, but the past couldn't be undone with a few calls. Later that week, as George headed out from an evening at the community center where he spoken about workplace dignity, Mr. Domnic approached him in the parking lot. George, please, a moment of your time. I'm listening. We were wrong, terribly wrong. Seeing you on that stage tonight, speaking about integrity. We didn't understand before, but we do now. Please, can we make amends? Making amends isn't just about understanding, it's about the choices you make when it counts. I appreciate your apology, but some things can't just go back to how they were. We just want a chance to show we've changed. Change isn't just shown by wanting back what you threw away when it wasn't shiny. It's about what you do with your understanding going forward. As George got into his car, the finality in his voice surprised even himself. The encounter had been brief but significant, making a clear boundary. He wasn't ready to cross the next day at his office. The phone rang again. This time it was Mr. Domnic. We've been thinking a lot about your interview and your speech. We want to learn to really understand the value of every person's work. Could we perhaps sponsor an event, maybe a seminar? While I appreciate the offer, I think there are other ways you could make a difference that don't involve me directly. Maybe start with your employees, your community actions. Action speaks louder than words. You are right, George. We will start there. Thank you for the advice, and again, we are sorry for everything. Sarah sent one last mail. I will always love you, George, and I'll always regret my decisions, but I'm learning, trying to be better. Maybe one day you will see that. Goodbye, George. Reading her words, George felt a pang of old affection, but he knew some choices had lasting consequences. His journey had just begun, and though it started in pain, it was paving the way for something greater, something that went beyond personal grievances to societal change. George wasn't just the CEO of a cleaning company, it was a voice for those often overlooked. One afternoon, as George was reviewing materials for a workshop, his old friend Mark stopped by, a serious look on his face. George, have you heard about Sarah and her folks lately? Seems they're still trying to smooth things over with you. Well, I hope they find a way to genuinely contribute positively, beyond just fixing their image. Yeah, Sarah reached out again. You know, she sent a donation to our workshop. She said there is no string attached, just supporting the cause. I appreciate that, Mark. I'll put it to good use. It's all about the cause after all. As Mark nodded, leaving his office with a thoughtful look, George turned his attention back to his work, the endless email and planning document. George will continue to spread one day, one speech, one project at a time. And that wraps up our story of George, who turned personal betrayal into a platform for advocating dignity in every profession. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think people's perception of certain profession still affects their relationship? And if so, how can we as a society work to change this bias? Share your thoughts and experience in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the story, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Your support helps us keep this conversation going. Let's dive into the discussion and see what changes we can inspire together. Till I see you again in my next story. Goodbye.